Russia. What is Russia? A land whose last remaining monopolies remain upon bitter, cold, homophobic systems of belief and that unfounded fear that lingers deep within the hearts of America, that the Ruskies are coming to take away your guns. A country that in its heyday once sprawled so big that it scooped up Alaska in an attempt to sprawl even bigger. Why they did this, we will never know. It is a mystery. They looked over at the polar bears and the cold and the wacky politicians, and they said, "Wowie zowie. Land doesn't seem to have any gold on it, but I'm sure it'll still pan out." Of course it did eventually pan out, but not for them. No, they sold Alaska for dirt, and then somebody else found the gold that totally didn't seem to be there at first, you know. Russia. What is Russia? Is it Soviet Russia? Tsarist Russia? Russia. What is Russia? Is it weird? Is it normal? Is it Asia? Is it Europe? Is it the Arctic? What is Russia, dear viewers? Is it in your hearts? Is it in your souls? In your vodka? Your potatoes? Boil them, mash them, and put them in a stew. Stir it with your toes and serve it up. There's no more rhymes. This is gonna go down like Asher. Like really, it's fucking gonna happen. Russia. What is Russia? Is it in your vodka? In your potatoes? What is Russia? Is it in your boots?
I'll go get it.
Who could it be at this hour? It's nearly 3 p.m.
God, people knocking all hours of the day. Don't they know it's nearly 3 in the afternoon?
She sure is taking a long time.
Look what we got.
Oh, wow. Oh, package. Oh, man, it's never a head in a box, though. It's such a shame.
Let's find out.
That'd be a very, very narrow head, perhaps.
A shrunken head, perhaps?
I want shrunken heads. It's not really my thing. Why wouldn't you just take the full size? Really, it makes no sense. Oh. I can't wait. A lot of crumblies on it. It's pure treasure. Show it to the camera. I don't know how far we can tip this safely. Pure treasure. No, hold on. I have a better idea. Let's give them a real look. Yes, a real, true, authentic look at. Yes, look at it. Pure treasure.
Does something smell odd about these to you?
Yes, you know, we've been cursed, what, 2 or 3 times this season, and I would know the smell of a curse from a long-forgotten epoch, like the back of my terrifying claw. Yes, I think someone has sent us some cursed chicken nuggets. It's a good thing we're not that dumb. No matter how delicious those nuggets are, none of us are going to consume even one. Bloody Sunday, they call it. And a bloody day it was indeed. The 22nd of January, 1905, a group of Russian workers, organized by Father Gregory Capone, marched upon the Tsar's winter palace, list of demands in hand. Father Gregory Capone is most often remembered as a working class leader of the time, though it is worth noting that he was also an informant for the police. Whether this tarnishes his role in the marches or not is entirely up to you, as he was instrumental in the drafting of the list of requests that these Russian working people had. They wanted a fair shake, fair wages, fair rights, better working hours, an end to the Russo-Japanese War, and so much more. They wanted real, tangible reform. They were marching for rights, not just as workers, but as citizens. Something criminally lacking in Tsarist Russia. They gathered in droves on the outskirts of St. Petersburg and began moving inwards in bands. The police, for what it is worth, either didn't stop them or in many cases joined them in their march. They sang patriotic hymns and they held religious iconography as they made their way toward the Winter Palace. However, their good luck was about to run out. The Tsarist military surrounded the Imperial Palace, the Winter Palace, and the Tsar booked himself out of there so as not to face any unnecessary risk of exposure to peaceful protest and activism. It is quite possible, dear viewer, he would find himself quite at home in the current political climate. The soldiers dispersed the oncoming crowds with a combination of incredibly brutal force and efficiently lethal force, trampling protesters with horses, gunning them down, stabbing, beating, and slashing their way through the majority unarmed civilians. As the dust settled, many lay dead. As few as 140 and as many as who really knows. The number on Wikipedia says 230 something, I believe. However, the numbers are not certain because it is not outside of typical European, monarchical, Russian, czarist behavior of the time to cover up the true amount of deaths in such an incident. A few hundred more were injured, reportedly, and 6,000 to 7,000 were jailed. And with this, dear viewers, perhaps the seeds of a revolution were planted. Years later, during the spring of 1912, another great tragedy would play a formative role in the rise of socialism in Russia. There is gold in them there hills. At least, that's what the many shareholders of the Lena Goldfields Company likely said to themselves, with frequency and in perpetuity. And by many shareholders, I mean an elite few. Yes, this company was traded by such names as the incredibly wealthy Ginsburg family, the State Bank of Russia, the Empress of Russia herself, as well as, if memory serves me correct, a handful of other high-ranking and influential individuals of great wealth. But for the workers prospecting the land, all them their hills held was oppression and a continuation of their povertous state of affairs. The Lena Goldfields Company was not likely to change, however, as it had a special relationship with the Russian crown, seeing as the government was in need of precious metals to mint and hoard, or so it seems. Tired of their conditions, the workers of the Lena Goldfield and other goldfields united and went on strike. It was in March when the spontaneous strike was put together, and it quickly spread to neighboring goldfields, becoming more organized and more stalwart in their endeavor. The strike soon grew to as many as 6,000 workers, demanding an 8-hour workday and a 30% rise in wages. On April 17th, the strike committee was arrested by the Tsarist military. This is what you might call a bad decision. The next morning, the workers were understandably riled by this, and a band of 2,500 of them marched for Nadezhinsky Goldfields to file a complaint at the prosecutor's office there. The clash with Tsarist military forces was inevitable. In the wake of the tragedy, 270 lay dead and 250 wounded. And another seed of revolution was planted. Many horrors follow the Russian Revolution, the rise of socialism in the country and the rise of authoritarianism piggybacking off of that movement left many bodies in its wake, whether it be from starvation or war or atrocity. It is important, however, for you, dear viewer, to remember the big picture. Socialist Russia, in the immediate post-Tsar climate, may not have been perfect, but there's a reason these people were willing to fight and die for a radical new way of doing things. Tsarist Russia was the kind of hellscape that is hard to imagine when you are a wealthy, middle-class person, or even a well-fed, lower-class person. Tsarist Russia is the kind of hellscape that is hard to imagine when you are a well-fed, middle-class person with full rights and citizenship, with safe working conditions, with a roof over your head that you have a right to. But this reality was what the people of Russia were universally fighting against. And I think that, if nothing else, is worth remembering, dear viewer. Oh, maybe I just like rambling on. Stay spooky.
Today's tale is one of everybody's grandmother. It's from sweet old woods. The Baba Yaga. Their name literally translates loosely to something along the lines of old woman or grandmother, snake or wicked. So flipped for our common English, some version of wicked old woman, which I don't think seems very nice to our lovely Baba Yaga. She could be a kindly old woman, you don't know her. Actually, in reality, nobody really knows much about her, as many stories about her are two completely opposite ends of this moral spectrum. She seems very ambiguous. She's a decrepit old woman who's as spindly as a twig and often inhuman lengths. She rides through the night in her mortar and pestle, using it even for magic. Even living in a house that constantly spins and is seated on chicken legs with a rooster's head atop its peak. Sometimes her fence seems to be made of human bones, but they might just be to scare people off. She could have just found them in the woods. And, you know, old women like the brave ones. Even in some depictions, she's actually a trio or duo of sisters of matching descriptions. Nonetheless, though, her magic is not a thing to be trifled with. If you come across, she will offer you a task that needs completing, but only if you enter. She will not seek you out. If you succeed, she will offer you something grand. If you succeed, it might not be what you quite expect, though. If you fail, your fate could be much, much worse. Being cooked alive in that same enormous stove that she loves to lounge upon, Grandmama's cooking always did have that special little zing, don't you say? Will you fail or succeed, she will always stay true to her word. She will either end you, cooking you, or she will provide you with an answer to what you need. She is a woman of honor after all, so cut her some slack. Stop calling her all these ghastly, hurtful things. Some say she is grotesque, rotten, or even horrid and repulsive. She lives in the woods after all. Leave her alone. Cut her some slack. Now, you might be wondering where we've first heard about this Baba Yaga. Well, the first clear reference is in 1755, way back there from you humans, in a book by Mikhail V. Lomonosov's titled Rossiyskaya Grammatika, which translates to Russian grammar. It's not what we know as grammar of how language works. It's a type of book. She is mentioned twice within this text, among other Slavic gods and other beings next to their presumed Roman equivalents, and we all know the prolificacy of the Roman pantheon. But Baba Yaga is in a third section with quite no equivalents to them, which lends even more to her uniqueness even back then. And then later on, we get our first good imageries of the Baba herself in some beautiful lubki, which are woodblock prints in the late 17th and early 18th century. She is still depicted in a very stereotypically witchy look. And even the feelings these are to evoke within the viewer's mind give an impression of her witchiness, whether in her true natural form that we've all come to know of our dear grandma, or when they were a more humorous political cartoon, which yes, they even had back then for those people that they did not like so much. Poor Baba. I'm going to leave you with one final little story that the Baba is in herself and is lending to how she's both good and bad. It is Vasilisa the Beautiful. It's a Cinderella type story, but not in that silly, silly Disney version that's all joyous and happy, dancing and singing, mice and all that silliness. More in the original that is much more frightening. Vasilisa has a magical doll and even gains an evil stepmother and stepsister. So very familiar. Long story short, they're moved to a cottage in the woods. Vasilisa, tasked by this horrible family, is to find light all by her lonesome. She encounters the Baba Yaga, and in exchange for some difficult tasks, we granted fire. Upon completion of these tasks, which could be quite painful, she is granting a skull lantern, which then, upon return to the cottage, incinerates this horrible new family. But even after that atrocities, in the end, it's happy, because our heroine, Vasilisa, marries mighty Tsar of Russia. After burning her family alive, the Tsar is like, yes, I want this powerful one. It's mine. But moving past Vasilisa, we're here to focus on the Baba Yaga's role in her positive negativeness. Well, yes, the Baba Yaga has freed her from this horrible family. As you see, incinerating people is rather a frightening and painful way to go. Because I don't think even you would want to be burned alive. But it's rather immoral creativity is Baba Yaga's strong suit. In the same story, there's a small little bit showing how our dear grandmother is also cast as a Mother Earthly figure. She is a powerful influence on the natural world very often. This powerful, powerful magic. In the story, Vasilisa twice sees 3 riders that are first white, then red, and then the third black. Upon returning to the Baba Yaga, it is explained that they are her servants and are respectively day, the sun, and night. So, you see, she has heavy influence on our natural world. So, again, it's best not to trifle with the old woman, is it? With this warning, I'll conclude my tale of the Baba Yaga. But don't fret, there are many, many more tales if you would like to hear more about her. But they require a little digging, you see. So, be safe and don't enter the spinning hut. Unless you would like to do tasks for sweet grandmama. She needs some help, so maybe you should.
It's a bestiary, everybody come see some bees.
Another forest protector. Another old guy with something weird happening with his feet. The Lishi is a mischievous spirit tasked with protecting the forests of Russia. He usually appears as an old man with a beard filled with pine cones and flowers and moths and bits. It's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. Better beard than the keeper of spooky tales. Much better beard. He's got a red scarf and red shoes on opposite feet. I'm sure that makes it very easy to walk in the woods. He enjoys stealing road signs, getting you lost in the woods. He enjoys getting you lost in the woods in general, leading you astray deeper and deeper, calling out to you in a human-like voice. But he uses his magical powers to appear as a blade of grass, or perhaps a tree. So you're following a voice deeper into the woods with no idea where it's coming from, till eventually you get to his cave, sweet cave, where he tickles you to death. I hope you're not ticklish. It's gotta take a lot of effort to tickle someone to death, I'd imagine. Could you imagine being tickled to death? I can't, I'm not ticklish. The Lishi, mischievous forest spirit, death tickler.
Hey, witch, have you seen our cursed coffee mugs? I've been craving some of that mild, aged, cursed flavor. They have to be in here someplace. Let's... No.
I haven't seen them anywhere.
No. Not with the spices.
Oh, look!
or even for her magic. Little
On January the 22nd of, oh my god. Got it right. Hey, broken clock, at least twice a day, right? Take 2, rabbit stew.
What the fuck, babe?
Take 2 just for you. Take 2, the gates of hell.
I'm gonna go now.
Take 2, this time the monsters are real.
Oh, Jesus, babe, why?
So he's basically a master of the kink.
I'm not saying that.
Master of the kink. Master of the kink. Kink. Master. He's master of the... Also, isn't his beard sometimes just straight up leaves? Perhaps, dear viewer, he would find himself quite at home in the current political climate.